Hey everyone, it's been a while, but I want to make a quick mock interview video, so let's just jump right into it. So I'll start mock interview, start now. Okay, so our problem is merge intervals. Given a collection of intervals, merge all overlapping intervals. So 1, 3, 2, 6, 8, 10, 15, 18. So 1 and 3 and 2 to 6. These two overlap, so they combine. So I've done this question before, and actually if you look back, I think the previous question that I did also had to deal with like intervals, and I think this question was basically like part of that, just merging intervals, like the disjoint set of intervals, something like that. But anyway, I'm going to just do this question again. Okay, so the first things that run through my mind, because it's an interval question, I would sort it. So let's just do the code, sort intervals. And like I said in the previous video, when you get an interval question, array question, string question, whatever, a lot of times it's really helpful for you to sort what you're working with, because that makes a lot of the other it makes the computation that follows easier. I think the only times you wouldn't consider a sort is if you're working with like a hash map or a set. Okay, so we sort the intervals, and now that, but what do we sort them by? We sort them by starting digit. Yeah, sort them by start. Okay, so now that it's sorted, there's the case. So if we sort it by start, there's a case where like they have the same start, but one of them is the ends is let's say these are both 1s, but then it was 1, 6 and then 1, 3. We would want 1, 3 to be at the front, right? Anyway, okay, so now that we have it sorted, I'm just visualizing how I could do it. I could just keep track of the starting number and then keep going, keep eating up intervals until I can't merge anymore, and then create that interval. So what I mean by that is, like, let's say I'm working with this given, then I'll start at 1, and then I'll just keep eating until finally the interval is like past the end. So let's say I have like 1 to 3, then 2 to 6, right? So let's say I have 1 to 3, then 1 to 5, then 2 to 3. So then I'll go to 1 to 3, then I'll change that to 1 to 5, then I see that 2 is less than 5 and 3 is less than 5, so then nothing happens. Then when I reach 6 to 9, I'm like, oh shoot, so 6 is greater than 5, so that's where it ends. Okay. Potentially there might be some edge cases, but for now, just 2. Then set or vector intervals, and I think that's it. I'm guessing that the tricky part of this question is that you just have to think of all the edge cases. Yeah. Okay, well, I'm just going to start coding this. So C++ has a sort function, sort interval okay. So now that we sorted them, we want to make a new vector of intervals, call this vec, or let's call this ret. At the very end we return ret. Okay, so now that we have the vector that we want to return, we want to start eating up the intervals. So should I put it there? I equal to 0 is less than intervals dot size I plus plus. Okay, so we take the first one. So basically we take the start of the first interval, and then we also keep track of the end of that interval. So take start of intervals at 0. After we take the start of that, keep track of end, and then iterate through intervals until okay, so I can either list out all the cases right now, or just talk through my thoughts, talk through the test cases as I write the pseudocode. So I'll do the latter. So I'll iterate through all the intervals until the start, let's see, the start of the current interval is greater than the end of our current merged interval. At that point, we can stop merging and just make an interval out of that start and that end. And then at the same time, we want to take the start of this new interval and keep track of end, and then we'll repeat. Okay, so that is, and then as you can see, like, it'll just keep doing that. And then I guess at the very end, make make an interval of the final merged interval, because yeah, at the very end of this, you'll reach the end, and then you'll still have a start, and you'll still be keeping track of the end. Alright, so the first thing is we have to take the start of the intervals at 0, right? So first of all, we will have a local variable called int merge start. Let's just call it start, and then also end. So if intervals.size is greater than 0, then start will equal intervals at 0, and then end will intervals at dot start. And the same with end, it will equal intervals 0 dot end. Alright, so now that we're keeping track of those, we can now start at the first or the second interval, so at index 1, and we just compare that start to our current end. So if, okay, I guess I should put a space here. Oh, do I put a space there? Which one looks better? Okay. Okay, space. Okay, so if the start, no, so if the end is less than intervals dot start, intervals at I dot start, that means we're making a new one. I mean, that means that the current merged interval is ended, and we want to actually make an interval out of that. So ret dot push back. Okay, where are we pushing back? So we're making an interval from start to end. After that, we have to update. So start will now equal intervals at I dot start, and end will equal intervals at I dot end. Otherwise, that means we're eating it up, right? So in this case, the start is definitely within start and end. So all we have to do is we set end equal to the maximum of the current end and the intervals at I dot end. And then at the very end, and then end, at the very end, we want to do this again. Okay, and so there is the case where the intervals dot size is 0. So I mean, the most like dirty way of doing it is just if intervals dot size equal to 0, then return ret. Which means that ret needs to be before this. Okay, so I'll keep this up here. So I think this will work. Normally during an interview I'll say, okay, so this is a rough draft of my code. I'll talk it through again. So right now I just initialized a vector of intervals called ret. Then I make a check to see if the size of the intervals that's passed in is equal to 0. If it is, that means it's empty, so we don't even have to do anything or do any merging, and we just return that ret. Otherwise, we sort them. If I remember correctly, C++ automatically sorts by the first element of a struct, I think. So it should sort by start. If it complains, then I'll have to write a constructor or whatever. But normally during an interview, like, they don't really care about you actually writing the sorting algorithm. They care more about like the other part of the algorithm or the other part of the function. Like, unless the question actually is like implement merge sort or something like that. Yeah. Anyway, so after that, after it's sorted, then we want to start merging, right? So we initialize, or we declare two variables to keep track of the current start and the current end of the merged interval. So because I did this, I can assume that intervals.size will be greater than 0, so we don't need this. Start, end. So actually, this is what I can do. Okay, so now that we set the start and the end, now we start at the second element and we start merging. So at each step, we first compare the end of our merged interval to the start of the next interval that we're checking. Now, visually, if this is like an interval, and this is another interval, we only care if these two intersect, right? So if this end is completely less than the start, then we know that we don't have to merge these. Whereas if this start was over here, like so, that means that we have to merge them. Or if they're equal, like, I don't know how to represent that, but if they're like equal like that, then yeah, we have to merge them. Yep. So if end is less than the start, so if it's like this, then we can just merge. We can just turn this start and end into an interval. Push that back to the returning vector. Then we set the start to be the new start, or the intervals at i.start, and we set the new end, and then we continue. Otherwise, if this isn't true, that means that they are intersecting, and all we have to do is just take the end of, or the greater end. And after that, at the very end, we'll always have one interval left over, because at the very end we're always like we're still keeping track of a start and end, right? So we have to turn that final start and end into its own merged interval. Then we return ret. All right, let's see. One time accept. Oh my god. Oh, okay. That doesn't count. Come on. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Why is it pending so long? Okay, so it's what is it? What does this mean? All right, I'm gonna Google C++ sort. Okay, so I'm guessing I'll just have to like write the sorting algorithm myself. What's there? Okay, alright, let's just do this. My function. And then my function will be over here. And then it will take interval A, interval B. And then it will return whether A.start is less than B.start. Keep in mind that I don't really care about the end because I guess this logic will sort of just take care of itself. Alright, let's just run that. Should this be outside? Non-static function. Okay, so let's submit this now. Oh, cool. All right, it got accepted, and then I got a server error. Come on, Leetcode. Okay. Oh, come on. Why? All right. Well, at least it shows that I got accepted. Okay, so yeah, that was like 23 minutes. I think that was a relatively easier question than data stream is destroy intervals. Yeah, thanks for watching. That was like my mock interview. I'm not sure how to do those mock interviews or how to make these mock interview videos if I already know the question. But I kind of sort of forgot that question, so that kind of helped. But hopefully you understood my thought process as I was doing that question. After doing a few interval questions, you sort of just know, okay, I'll sort it, and then you think in terms of like ends and starts, like the end of this interval and then the start of the next interval. And it's usually a variation of merging or maybe like rooms. Yeah. Anyway, thanks for watching to the end, since you're still listening to this. Let me know if there are any questions you want to hear, or yeah. It seemed pretty straightforward, so I'm thinking about not making an explanation for this, but maybe an explanation still would be better if you want me to guide you through. So I'm not getting any feedback on this, so I'm not getting much feedback from these videos, so I guess I'll just make it if I feel like it. Anyway, thanks for watching and have a good day.